viOLet is a very long time in StarCraft 2 already, so he is a very experienced player. I think matches against him are never easy.
You know, and Nerchio is like known with a smart and strategy player. My head gonna blow up.
So for me, it's very important, you know, to go further into the tournament, semi-final or final.
He's like best foreigner in the world right now. Also, he can beat Korean level easily, and he just win a championship. So he's really in the good mood right now. But you know, this is ZvZ, so you never know what's gonna happen. So I think it's like maybe 50-50.
I just have to do well because I value consistency in StarCraft 2 the most.
So this tournament is a kind of have a lot of meaning to me. So I try to do my best for make a semi-final and the final. So basically, if I beat Nerchio, I can win the championship. That's how my confidence is.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai for day number 3. We are in our last quarter-final here as the hype continues on from our Chinese host. Of course, we have the champion of DreamHack Valencia now going to be going up against viOLet. And it's very rare, I say, Rotterdam, that our Korean should be afraid of our non-Korean.
Yeah, it happens a little more often this year, though. I mean, whenever somebody goes up against Neep, we pretty much say the same thing. But you're right. I mean, Nerchio is the favorite here. I do think that if Nerchio would fall, this tournament is wide open and anybody can take it. But right now, a lot of people are looking at Nerchio at least making it to the final at this side of the bracket. And I mean, that's not, you know, that's not speculation. Nerchio has been phenomenal, and his ZvZ. Europe has always had a very strong Zerg scene, so obviously he plays plenty of ZvZs to feel confident in this matchup as well.
I know one guy who's hoping viOLet wins, Uthermal, sitting in the semifinals. As good as he is versus Zerg, I spoke with him and he's like, yeah, I wouldn't mind playing viOLet over Nerchio, you know, it's definitely would be an easier matchup.
It really shows just how intimidating Nerchio is at the moment, Funko, right?
Yes, exactly. Nerchio, once again, just the top dog in Europe these days. Ever since Legacy of the Void, ever since his transition into pro gaming, as it is, like dropping school, like not even dropping school, full-time pro gamer. Yeah. That makes a whole lot of difference. And as we said previously, viOLet is not having a best year. And I think, like, if he wants to make a difference right now, he has to beat Nerchio. But his last results in ZvZ, like, for instance, losing to Jon Snow 3-0, that's something that is really, really scary when you go up against Nerchio.
Yeah. Something also to mention is that viOLet at the moment is ranked 8th in WCS points, which means he really needs to bagging some extra points here to make sure that he's going to be safe.
And that's only because he moved up a little bit, right, with the points he already scored here, I believe. There are a lot of things to factor in here. Nerchio has a winning record against viOLet, but it's still his weakest matchup. viOLet might be a little bit hungrier because obviously you talked about WCS points, whereas Nerchio is pretty much already qualified with how many points he's already gathered. So all of these things are going to come into play here.
Yep, I mean, this is definitely the moment for viOLet to make a statement and saying, guys, yeah, I know I'm high up in those WCS rankings, but you guys keep on talking about me scoring a lot of points in a relatively easy bracket at DreamHack Tours, where he made it to the quarterfinal after taking care of Igas and Jim Rising. That wasn't the toughest bracket. If Nerchio would somehow fall here to viOLet, that's where viOLet definitely says, like, hey, guys, I'm actually in the running for those WCS Global playoffs, and I absolutely deserve it because I am still capable of the things that I showed a couple of years ago, where I was winning tournaments, and not just foreign tournaments. You remember that one MLG Arena he won, when, you know, everybody was there back then, Lucira, Nesty and stuff. viOLet has shown us that he can compete with the absolute best, but that's a long time ago, and this would really be an excellent series for him to excel and find some of that former glory.
Yeah, he'd love to put himself back on the map in terms of like the biggest, grandest stages and the grandest spots. Then, of course, kind of focusing on Nerchio here. After coming off that win in Valencia, after looking so dominant, even in the current stages that we're seeing in this tournament so far, I mean, what's actually going to stop him? Is viOLet, is even Uthermal if he goes on forwards? Is he just going straight to the final? What do you think?
I believe in the fairy tale story if Uthermal actually plays against Nerchio because of what he's done in ZvT these tournaments. But in the end, it's still going to be really, really hard to put Nerchio out of tracks. Like, he's on a track to victory, total domination. That's what he does in Europe. That's what he does in major tournaments.
The best people that could stop Nerchio are actually the last few people he might have to face there. No. Everybody in general, starting with viOLet here in his weakest matchup, ZvZ. Then he would have to face Uthermal, who's really good against Zerg. And then in the finals, either Showtime or Nib, who better than one of these two to try and stop Nerchio. So it's going to be a true test for him here to try and win 3 in a row and win the whole thing.
I think overall, it's great to see how the tournament is shaped up, because every single series that comes up, we're like, okay, this person's in the top 8. Okay, this person is just kind of just barely under the top 8. So that really shows how much competition there is in this tournament, especially with the players that are left right now.
No, it's absolutely just getting better, and that's not always the case. In the past, we've looked at a couple of round of 16s or round of 32s, and we're like, man, it's such a shame that these two players went up against each other in this round. I don't think that's the case this time. The seeding has been excellent for this Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai, and you know, truly the best is saved for last. I really like what Todd said there. This is, even though if Nerchio wins this tournament, a lot of people would be like, well, what a surprise. But I like Todd's point. It's only getting harder for him as well. ZvZ can always be tricky. ZvT, I mean, Uthermal shows us that he's capable of taking out very good Zergs. And then the grand final, potentially a Neep that is flawless in PvZ, or Showtime that already took care of Nerchio at DreamHack Tour. So even if Nerchio would go all the way, it will never be easy for him.
For viOLet so far, it's been an interesting tournament. He's played one series and it was against Haas, who you can't really truly prepare for unless you're anticipating the craziest of craziest things. Then going up against Nerchio here, what does he have to anticipate? Because Nerchio can throw a lot of things in Zerg versus Zerg. Is he going to be going aggressive? What do we think, Funko?
That's the thing. Like, how are you supposed to prepare against Nerchio? Like, he has everything in the book. He can do anything. He can be aggressive. He can play amazing macro games. He can play Muta. He can play Roach Hydra. He can play Banelings. Like, he actually is the perfect Zerg, in my opinion, in Europe at the moment. He can do whatever in whatever matchup.
Nerchio's pretty solid, and you know, a lot of the time it feels like he's just gonna try to play standard and not get outdone. That's exploitable. If you think that Nerchio's never really gonna cheese and just kind of, you know, play standard and safe, what you can do is play very greedy against that. But that's not really viOLet's style at the same time. He loves to be aggressive more often than not.
And one thing that really stands out for Nerchio Rotterdam is his engagement. The fact that he can get fantastic surrounds and just cause you all sorts of problems. He will come in from every angle.
Yep, absolutely, and that's something that matters too in ZvZ. I mean, we see a lot of cool timings with Zerglings and Ravagers, something that's not necessarily the ideal composition, but if you hit at the right time, you get a perfect wraparound with the links, drop a couple of crosshair balls. But I mean, Nerchio, I like what Wanka said there, is pretty much the perfect Zerg at the moment, at least from what we see in the foreign scene, in the WCS circuit. If I was viOLet's team manager here and I was supposed to give him advice, I'd be like, sorry, buddy, you're on your own. Like, I've got nothing, you know. Like, Nerchio's really good. Like, are you going to tell him to cheese? I wouldn't cheese Nerchio, but do you want to play macro games? Maybe the fine line is somewhere in between. Try to hit very sharp, like Todd said. Try to get a small advantage by being greedy, and then go for a very well-executed mid-game attack. Maybe that's his best shot.
All right, thank you very much, guys. As we're about to get into this best of 5, Zerg versus Zerg. Let's see the early stages of this game to see if they're going to figure each other out. It's viOLet versus Nerchio. I'm sending you over to Pig and Brendan.
Welcome, guys, to the casting desk. It's me, Valdez, with Pig. We're about to jump into a great ZvZ between Nerchio and viOLet. So let's go ahead and jump into that game. It's already started here. Game number 1 between these two players. You can see them on your screen right now. Nerchio on the left, viOLet on the right.
And viOLet's got his work cut out for him, sure. This is going to be a tough match for him, but it's one of the most chaotic matchups. Of course, known as the Polish Zerg player in the top left-hand side of Frost, it is Nerchio. Often referred to as Godchio most recently.
Godchio, he's earned the nickname, it seems, looking untouchable so far. And up here in the top right, in the blue, the other Zerg player, it is viOLet. Oh, there he is.
You know, viOLet's had a really determined, you know, kind of attitude going into this tournament. We spoke about it yesterday, how he didn't get a chance to go to Valencia due to some passport issues, but, you know, having a good shot here today.
Let's take a look at the veto series. See, Apotheosis banned out by Nerchio, Dasan Station by viOLet, and then viOLet getting the first pick, Frost, Galactic Process, Frozen Temple, King Sejom Station, and then New Gettysburg to line it up there towards the end if we do get to game number 5.
That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, both players taking out, I guess, the more crazy maps, like the super far distance and the super close distance maps. So, fair enough. Interestingly, Nerchio did send his first Overlord in the correct direction. So, just kind of a little bit of a lucky call there. Is going to get a slightly earlier scout. But both players have gone hatch first. So, the only impact that's going to have is Nerchio's just going to realize, hey, I'm safe. There's nothing to worry about. Whereas viOLet's going to have a little bit more of a delay before his Overlord gets over to the natural and confirms that.
after all, we do have decently similar builds up until now, where we do see the speed coming out just a bit faster here for Nerchio. About a 5 to 10 second difference there. May have a very, very slight impact if one of these players wants to get super aggressive. But so far at these positions, Frost is a pretty big map, even at horizontal spawns. So probably just gonna sit back here. You see Nerchio, he gets control of the watchtower here first. Let's see a little bit of micro between these two players.
Oh, yeah. Trading one Ling for Ling, not too bad. viOLet actually has an extra 2 Zerglings here, looking like he really wants to get position out on the map, and that's going to be fantastic. We see a Baneling Nest already down here for viOLet, whilst Nerchio has gone for the 3rd base and only dropping the Baneling Nest now. So if viOLet can get a forward position here with faster Banelings, start putting pressure on, I mean, if he snipes the 3rd, that's a huge win.
Yeah, and he's just scouted too. He is going to come in here with 4 Lings now, trying to snipe some of the Lings of Nerchio. But after all, he does get 1, just trading 1 for 1. He is going to get a full scout of the main, though.
Yeah, getting a bit of vision is always nice here. I mean, this is going to rule out anything crazy with these Zerglings, but Nerchio with a good defense so far, not really taking any damage, and ooh, very cute by viOLet, just maintaining those Zerglings and keeping them there. Now, Nerchio's got to have that in the back of his head. If he ever forgets about those Zerglings, they could sneak in and do a lot of damage.
Yeah, I was surprised that he didn't at least follow up with his Lings or even the Queen. He's just got it on the edge here, and Nerchio, rather viOLet, has snuck there and is making Banelings, and here comes the huge swell of Lings coming across the map. Nerchio does have his own Baneling Nest,
the
and now he has
going
seen the
into the main base at the same time. Great pull with those drones by Nerchio. Does only lose 2 drones, minimizing the damage, but at the front, he's taking a lot of losses. He's just down in Zerglings. He doesn't have those Banelings ready yet, and this 3rd hatchery is already getting so much damage on it. This is a fantastic attack from viOLet, but viOLet has to focus the hatchery. He can't let that hatch survive. He's committing a lot to this.
Here we go. The Banelings coming in here from Nerchio. They need to get the magical hits. A bunch of Lings on the left side, and Nerchio does keep his Banelings alive. He's going to try to trade 2 for 2, and now viOLet committing to that hatchery. The Baneling doesn't really get the hit, and he's going to save it.
The spread there, that was so well played by Nerchio, just pulling the Zerglings around there and just kind of spreading them out, making sure that that didn't work out there for viOLet. And oh, that's such a close loss there by viOLet. viOLet's now pumping out Zerglings in response, but his own 3rd is exposed, and if Nerchio can shut this down, he is far in the lead.
You know, I was kind of questioning when I saw Nerchio not cancel that hatch, but that guy's got a calculator in his brain, man. He knows exactly. He's like, no, I can save it with about exactly 90 health here. And that's exactly what he does. And look at this. I mean, cancels the 3rd. Maybe viOLet's going to hold on, but he is definitely pretty far behind.
So many Banelings going in here. There's nothing to stop them, and already 5 drones do go down. A nice pick up there for Nerchio. Nerchio's been droning behind this. He's now falling back for the defense. Keep in mind, yeah, he sniped the 3rd, but his own 3rd is so vulnerable. There's no transfuse for this. He's just got to defend this as best he can, and viOLet's got to be looking for that. Knowing that he's lost his own 3rd, his own one's just restarted. Yeah. He's just got to go for the throat right now. He's got to finish that off.
He's committing to 5 Banelings here too, which is funny because even if the Lings don't do the job, it's really hard to get on top of those 5 Banelings, and he could even just run those in.
He's got to spread the Banelings out, though. Boy. Oh, no. Really bad micro there from viOLet, leaving those clumped up, and it looks like with the Roaches out now, Nerchio might actually be able to defend this, and this would be a disaster for viOLet. I think he definitely had a window there if he spread those out, just ran straight past that first Roach, but now, if he can't get the damage done, Nerchio's already into the Roach production. This is looking really scary.
You can see viOLet, he's thinking about it. He wants to try to commit, but he just can't because Nerchio gets that defense up. Maybe now with a bunch of Roaches making their way across the map here.
This is a last-ditch effort here for viOLet. He is down 13 workers right now. It is 31 drones to the 44 of Nerchio. Yeah, Nerchio's hatchery is weak, but even if he loses that, that's not it. Like, Nerchio's just so far ahead.
A run by into the main, and he is going to get a decent fight here. Can he pull Nerchio apart and perhaps snipe that base? Does seem like Nerchio has some Roaches of his own, but keep in mind the hatchery is still very, very low.
Yeah, I mean, he did pick up a Queen in the main, but at the front, the Roach Ravager defense is strong so far, and it looks like Nerchio doing a very good defense. The Roaches of viOLet's diving in. They snipe that hatchery down, but he's going to get punished hard for this. Broodlings and Zerglings wrapping around. Meanwhile, oh, not watching it, his Banelings just headbutt into that Roach.
You know, if perhaps he had gotten into the mineral line and somehow gotten like 8-9 drones, maybe he would have been in a better spot, but from here, I mean, he snipes the hats, but he sacrifices so many units, and all Nerchio has to do is just a move across the map. We've gotten to this point in this game.
Yeah, Nerchio's got these Ravagers up. So many Zerglings as well. The damage output is insane. He just outnumbers him. And Nerchio here with that solid defense on the hatchery from early in the game, not caving into any of these waves of aggression from viOLet. And I mean, viOLet killing the hatchery on his like 4th attempt, that really is just a consolation prize. It's not worth that much this late in the game. Nerchio, decisive as ever.
Nerchio taking game number 1. You can see the sigh even from viOLet as he realized he was going down in that game. And I forget who I was casting with, but we were trying to decide, what is Nerchio's weakest matchup, and we said it was ZvZ, but he's looking pretty solid here up against viOLet so far.
Yeah, I think he'd probably say the same as well. It's really hard to find that consistency. He's spoken about it a little bit recently in interviews, as has players like Snoot, where they're like, it's really hard to consistently just destroy everyone. Even when you're playing someone who's a little bit weaker than you, you always go into it on your toes, kind of watching out for anything. And I think Nerchio did a really good job there because in those spawns, it's a fast rush distance, and that attack hit really early. I thought the hatch was going to go down for sure.
Yeah, it was looking like it. It was very, very close. But after all, Nerchio does hold on. You could see even himself, he seems a little bit flustered, giving us a little bit of a sigh himself, maybe saying, oh, that was a bit close, too close for my liking. I'm sure he rates himself. Nerchio is very honest, by the way. Whenever I talk to him, I'm like, what do you think about this player? He's like, no, he's bad. I'm like, or if I say something, another player, he's like, no, yeah, he's really good. He'll just say it very straight up. Even though he's probably exaggerating a bit, calling, certain players bad or whatever. But he, against viOLet here, I'm sure he feels like he is the favorite player coming into this one.
Absolutely. That being said, he's also spoken about how he feels a bit uncomfortable being the favorite sometimes. And viOLet here, he's definitely high in those rankings. You could look at this as saying, oh, he's got everything to lose if he doesn't make it a bit deeper in this tournament. He's only got limited opportunities to make that top 8 for BlizzCon. But really, I think viOLet has just got to go into this with nothing to lose, just absolute focus. Don't be afraid to throw out some dirty tricks and just pull out what you've got to.
Yeah, so guys, we are about to jump into game number 2 of this series between Nerchio and viOLet. Will viOLet be able to pull it back here in game number 2, or will Nerchio get even further ahead? Down in the bottom left, in the red, the Zerg player from Poland, it is Nerchio.
Decisive game 1 victory. He is so decisive, he put the camera on skew a little bit there. And his opponent up here in the top right-hand side of Galactic Process, it is viOLet. Of course, playing for Team Envious, and just going to reach down there a little bit. I'm always surprised when I see the player reach for something in that early cam. I'm like, oh, what's he doing?
I don't know how, for me, it would be very hard. I'm not a pro gamer, right? But I'm like, no, I don't understand how you could just reach for a drink. Some of the Korean players are like, I'm going to take a big swig of my Picari sweat. I'm like, what? How do you, what? I mean, it is the early game, but I guess they're just doing everything with their keyboard hand for that little moment in time.
Yeah. And interestingly, looks like both players going to be going hatch first again. I mean, this is Galactic Process. It's a big map. But Nerchio delaying his gas a little bit there, going for the fastest spawning pool. And to me, that just says safety. Wants to get the spawning pool out as quickly as possible, so if there's any aggression, he can build those queens earlier, get them on the ramp a little bit easier. Whereas viOLet, taking a slightly greedier approach, his pool's going to be about 8 seconds later or so. And that just means he's going to get his faster Zergling speed and potentially have the chance to put on the aggression once again.
So what do you think, Pig? I mean, is this just like a straight-up safety pool because he feels like he's favored against viOLet? He's like, no, I just don't want to lose to anything, super cheesy. I want to be as safe as possible. Or is it because of the map? It is a big map, but does he just is he feeling something?
I think there's a lot of chance, for Zerglings to always hide on these big maps, right? So I guess it's something he's got in the back of his mind. He thinks after that game 1, maybe viOLet's feeling a bit desperate. Maybe he's going to throw out one of those all-ins. So yeah, definitely just a bit of safety and really kind of making sure he covers all his bases. And, if he's confident later in the game, having his Zergling speed 10 seconds later, not the biggest deal for him.
Yeah, for sure. And you can see that difference there on the production tab just a bit later, about 10 seconds, as you were saying. We're trying to get Coca to tell us the exact timing there. Yeah, just about 10 seconds. So going to be a very even start to this first game. And we'll see how this does come out. Nerchio sending out the first 4 lings.
And interestingly, viOLet pulling his 2 lings home, saying, you know what, I don't even care about scouting. I just want to defend with just those lings and the queen, so I can focus purely on droning. So viOLet last time, he went for the faster Baneling Nest, the very aggressive approach. This time, shifting gears into the defensive mode. And that makes perfect sense on this map, because the third base is just so nestled away, it's so hard to attack into.
Yeah, I like the idea. Nerchio himself, it looks like he just wants to get a scout of that and make sure that viOLet is going for this, making the extra Lings to do exactly that, getting his own third base at basically the exact same time. And look at this, both players are actually going to Ling up very heavily here. No more drones on the way. They're exactly even at 28.
And no Baneling nest. Both players go dropping a Roach almost identically. It looks like both players have decided this is the way to play this map. And you know what? This makes perfect sense here, because here on Galactic Process, like I said, you kind of have to attack through your opponent's natural choke point in order to get to the third. It's not something which favors Ling Bane aggression, because you've only got one angle to attack from. As a result, both players saying, let's just skip the Banelings, go straight up to these Roaches. Instead, we'll just use Lings on the map for mobility and pressure, and they should kind of cancel each other out.
So coming up here now is viOLet. He feels pretty comfortable about this. He did snipe some of the Lings over at his own third base, but some more reinforcements and the position on the ramp going to Nerchio here. So just trading a bit back and forth.
Really good micro. Nerchio doesn't want to give the surface area here to viOLet's superior Zergling count, so he keeps pulling back, only fighting with an equal number of Zerglings. Here, finally, the Zerglings of viOLet break through, but look at that queen positioning between the Roach. Nerchio has bought so much time, and now his Roaches are about to pop out. A very good defense from Nerchio whilst being up a couple of drones the entire time.
Yeah, and you can see him even heavily droning up here even more. 10 more drones on the way, whereas viOLet is going all aggression, all out. Nerchio at the same time going for a lair. Look at this, viOLet even going to win this trade over here. Sniping drone after drone.
Good
winning
Ravager
against those
morph,
Lings.
man.
Yeah.
That 5 carapace armor on the Cocoon. I always kind of laugh at that. It's just, Zerglings just do half a damage point, and they go, all right, we don't really kill you anymore. So a great save there from Nerchio.
And what do you think about this? I mean, Nerchio's getting a lair, he's getting +1, he's droning up heavily. Only now is he going to see this huge amount of Roaches coming across the map.
That's really late notice. He's got to drop spines right now, but he's distracted by the Zerglings. Those spines aren't down in time. They are not going to finish before those Roaches arrive. I think you're right, Brendan. I think Nerchio spotted this too late. He's got to cancel the +1. He's got to just build as many Roaches as possible. Thankfully for him, he's not supply blocked. He will be able to build a lot of Roaches, but I mean, he's got so many more workers. He's going to try and buy time with Corrosive Bile. This is desperation, man.
Look at the army sizes here. He's got 2 Ravagers, 2 Roaches. He has to back off and give some space. viOLet gaining the ramp now.
He's got to pull drones up. He can't just take this fight like this. Those spine crawlers beginning to be focused. viOLet getting right on top of him. viOLet's got to finish those spines before they finish up, though. The drones pull into the fight. More Zerglings joining the fight for Nerchio. Drones starting to go down. That one spine crawler in the back doing a lot of damage, but there's just so many units for viOLet.
And the follow-up of the Lings is just way, way too much. That's going to be it. GG. viOLet taking a game, coming back in the series 1-1.
Very powerful play there out of viOLet. Got to take it off to him, take my hat off to him and say, you know, the Zergling aggression was very powerful. Nerchio is playing so defensive in this series. He managed to pull it off by a hair's breadth in game 1. This time, just a little bit under, you know, kind of under defending. If he just built a few more Zerglings, he cleans up those Zerglings, goes back to getting the aggressive scouting on, getting over to the other side of the map, but he just built Roaches so early, kind of trying to cut the Zergling stage. I think that was a little bit of a greedy move for Nerchio. You can see the frustration on his face, and I think that cost him in the end. He didn't have the scouting.
People here have said before that one of the ways that Nerchio gets ahead is he likes to cut corners and just defend really well at the same time, just get away with cutting corners. But viOLet, I love the amount of aggression he put on, and maybe he saw the Overlord positioning of Nerchio is very, you know, defensive. He didn't want to lose those Overlords. They weren't really there to see the huge amount of Roaches coming across right when they came out and give him enough time to put down those spines. So maybe he's like, no, I can just get away with this. It's a big map. He's not going to expect it. He wants to get ahead on a big map like this, get greedy. I'm going to punish him for it. And it really, really worked out there. That was just like the exact game that viOLet wanted. You could see it on his face even. He's like, oh, thank God. Like, oh, it really, really worked there in that game.
Exactly. I mean, you add the few Zerglings in there, just kind of running distraction. And Nerchio's response delayed by a few extra seconds. That's all you need in Zerg vs. Zerg, man. Those spine crawlers, if they're 10 seconds faster, it changes everything. But as it was, a very decisive build there out of viOLet. Managed to close it out. And I think already there's going to be people a little bit surprised by that. There was a lot of people really underestimating viOLet's ability here. I myself, I still think he's going to really struggle to take another map. But that's going to be a big confidence booster, and it's his first step to making this a close series.
Yeah. So game number 3, guys, is going to be on Frozen Temple. Going to be another 2-player map, a bit of a smaller one. We'll see if either of these players wants to get a bit more aggressive or see how they are going to change up their builds. Getting a look now at Nerchio on the left side, and great look at our fantastic stage and audience here at the Intel Extreme Masters.
And let's go inside the game.
Inside the screen.
I love that shot. Of course, sporting down here in the bottom right-hand side of Frozen Temple, the Polish Zerg, it is Nerchio.
Nerchio probably not too happy after that last one.
Yeah.
Definitely getting outplayed in that game by viOLet. And up here in the top left, going for an early pool in the blue, it is viOLet.
Aggression, aggression, aggression. It seems to be viOLet's game plan. I mean, that's viOLet's motto in every matchup, really, since he started his StarCraft 2 career. He's made a career out of aggression. He wants to keep it going. Unfortunately for him, oh, check it out. Coca showing us that very fast spawning pool out of Nerchio as well, which is going to keep him very safe. There's like a 16 or 17 pool.
Yeah.
Very safe opening out of Nerchio. I'm going to be curious to see if viOLet decides to hide his Zerglings. This is like the earliest spawning pool, super aggressive. The downside if you hide the Zerglings is like, yeah, you surprise your opponent, but you hit so much later. So
yeah.
I'm really curious what viOLet wants to achieve with it.
That's like an extra 15 seconds if you're going to run all the way across the top side of the map. Let's see what he wants to do here. 8 lings, or no, 6 just now, 4 more on the way. And is he going to run into the sight of that Overlord?
Oh,
no.
He actually just barely
Slips
misses that
by.
first Overlord. Every extra second you get is great here, especially against a pool first build. But Nerchio, playing so safe as ever, actually wasn't starting extra drones with his extra lava. Just goes for the Overlord here, and he's going to start these queens, more Zerglings. He's going to have to pull drones down potentially to help defend this hatchery. But for now, he just wants to buy time. viOLet wants to force the engagement or cancel the hatchery, and all Nerchio wants to do is let that hatchery take a bit of a beating, but he doesn't want to let it go down.
Nerchio trying to get a bit cheeky, snipe a little ling over here, and actually he loses 2 of his own. Not a good start here. viOLet getting a lot of pressure and damage done onto that hatchery, and I love how he splits his lings. He's not fighting with all of his lings. He's consistently doing damage to the hatch at the same time as zoning out Nerchio here.
Nerchio is doing the bare bones minimum amount of defense, pulling only a single drone, and yet so far he's doing pretty well. The hatchery's still quite healthy. Yes, viOLet's taking a good ling-to-ling trade, but he needs a little bit more than that. You know, without wasting any mining time, you want to take a fantastic trade, and viOLet's just not finding it. Nerchio's not giving it to him. That queen rains down death, throwing needles into the eye of those Zerglings. Then viOLet's pressure is shut down.
Yeah, so there you go. It's going to be a bit of an earlier hatch going to Nerchio. And it looks like the earlier speed as well, as the gas of viOLet is going to be late with the build that he chose.
That's the real advantage you get, isn't it? As Nerchio here, it's that Zergling speed. viOLet, you look at it and you're like, hey, you've got your natural up, you've got 2 queens, you're only down 3 drones right now. That's pretty sweet. But look at this. He doesn't have the mobility, and he's got to build 10 Zerglings. He's building in more Zerglings, even going up to like 12 Zerglings and a Spine Crawler and 3 queens. viOLet quite paranoid about a counterattack here. Doesn't even realize that Nerchio's gas actually like wasn't super fast. And Nerchio is not committing to that at all. Nerchio is just rebuilding his economy at home and taking a really nice economic position.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be so far ahead in terms of just gas mined. He has the speed, and he's still 100 gas ahead. So definitely in a great spot here is Nerchio. You see these lings in the middle of the map are actually chasing the lings of Nerchio, but speed is about to get online. And if he had enough lings, he could have even punished these lings of viOLet. viOLet going very, very deep, wants to commit here.
Kamikaze Zerglings from viOLet. Unfortunately, these ones don't explode, man. I don't know how well they can do. Does take a good position. This is the best trade he could hope for. Just fighting the choke point on the ramp is going to kill a few Zerglings of Nerchio. And let's keep in mind, if you think about it, there's no Zergling speed on the way for viOLet. He's not planning on going for that. So I guess better to trade this off now, force Nerchio to build those extra Zerglings, because viOLet's got to sit in his base for a long time. He's just going up to Roach Tech. He's macroing on up slowly, and I think he's actually just going to prepare for a huge Roachling all-in.
Yeah.
If I had to guess, you know, showing the Evo at the front, he might even fake an upgrade. But if I had to call it now, I'd say I think he's just going to build a lot of Roaches and Speedlings and go for a flood.
And I think Nerchio should be expecting this. He knows just how far behind viOLet is with the builds that he has chosen. He's going to get that third beta sub very fast with the map control that he's gained with this speed. He knows that viOLet is definitely on the back foot, so he needs to prepare for some kind of all-in here. We do see viOLet making
great snipe on the drone.
Yeah, he gets that drone. viOLet going for an extra drone, actually, so he's not going full-out units just yet. More and more drones on the way, actually.
These Zerglings, oh my god, they're going to delay the third again. This is just the advantage you get with Zergling speed. So much mobility, it's so fantastic. And I got to be critical here of viOLet. You know, viOLet taking a long time to secure this third, but behind this, where's his tech? He doesn't have a lair. He's going for Zergling speed, but he's been droning. I mean, if you're going for such a late Zergling speed, normally it's for an all-in attack. You kind of hide it, you hit with one big wave, but he's not teching up. Now he's starting Zergling production. I can't understand this play from viOLet. It's very confusing to me.
Yeah, I mean, why are you droning up to 41? You know, are you trying to saturate your third base? Are you trying to go into the later game? No. It's almost like he was thinking about it and now he's changed his mind, even though he had the speed on the way. So kind of a interesting, confusing build. Now he's going into a lair behind this.
This is a really odd decision from viOLet. We're going to have to see how it plays out. A big wave of Speedlings coming across by surprise, but Nerchio already has a spine up and a little ball of roaches, and that should be able to defend his third very well.
Yeah, ball of roaches coming over here. Easily going to be able to push these Lings back. I suppose maybe he wanted to go for a bit of tempo, you know, like make a big swell of Lings, really put Nerchio on the back foot, force him to defend, maybe try to slip Lings into the main, really just try to find a hole while he's doing stuff at home.
I think that's a good decision, but you can't just throw them away. He threw away a good bunch there. He's shown these Zerglings on the left as well, or at least a few of them. I'm not sure if Nerchio noticed it with the Overlord, but they did run into vision, and the whole point of these Zerglings is like, you know, you got to catch Nerchio with his pants down. You got to catch him looking the other way. When he pushes out, run in there and ravage the third. But I feel like viOLet may have showed his hand a little bit too early, and right now we're looking at Roach versus Roach Wars, but Roach speed is already finished for Nerchio, and it hasn't even started yet for viOLet, just starting up now. So that's a very big mobility advantage for Nerchio. viOLet's going to have to kind of turtle up, defend this middle choke, and try to drag the game out a little bit so he can equalize those upgrades.
Yeah, and you know, this isn't a bad map to do it. If you're going to go right down the middle, the fastest path, there is that tiny little choke there, that ramp. There's already a spine and a concave set up by viOLet. He knows where his deficiencies in his build are, so he's going to play around it. For Nerchio, I love the fact that he adds the second Evo. He's like, yeah, I can't really attack anytime soon. You know, maybe I could try to go around, pressure the third, do something like that, but I'd rather just get further ahead and play more for the macro game here.
You know, it's really odd that Nerchio is committing so much to Roach. Is an interesting choice by him. And droning up very passively, very slowly. viOLet's actually taken a nice drone lead here. viOLet really realizing the strength of this defensive choke in the middle of the map has said, you know what, I got the freedom, man. I can drone up even though I'm not necessarily in the best position because I can hold this choke in the middle. There's no way you're going to push into me. So I really do like viOLet's decision-making in this mid-game to be a little bit freer with his dronings, not being too paranoid about a push from Nerchio.
Yeah.
And with his +2 still lined up, like, you might think double upgrades on the way for Nerchio, that's good, but +1 carapace actually isn't very important. If you do the maths on it, it's nowhere near as important as having the +2 upgrade. So
for sure,
not the biggest impact.
You were talking about how sometimes Nerchio feels a little bit pressured when he feels like he is the favored player. Maybe he's playing it a bit too safe. You were talking about, you know, the passive builds, the very safe builds, and also just the passive droning here in this game. And he's allowed viOLet in a way to get back in this game. He is going for the Spire here.
I think that's a really smart choice, and I feel like especially on this map, it's always Spire play after this Roach stage. It's the best way to play it because it's so hard to force a fight on each other. Right now, though, viOLet is actually way up in supply, and he's shoving his way down the middle of the map. He realizes that Nerchio is out of position, and it looks like viOLet's going to get up the middle, choke point, take down the spine instantly. However, if he commits too deep, he might get surrounded. Is he going to go for it? viOLet's going full YOLO, man. He's just diving in on the base here. Nerchio is going to try to come back to defend, catching all of the reinforcing of Roaches. And viOLet, the Spire, does get focused down, and so does the Lair.
The Lair, it was at half health from earlier on. That pressure with the Lings, he is going to lose all of these Roaches, and it's not going to be a good trade. So the counterattack here from Nerchio is very, very scary. viOLet getting a bit of damage done, but is it going to pay off at the end of this game?
Oh, you know, I think viOLet thought Nerchio was going to commit a little bit deeper there with those 2 prongs. Thought it was more of a base trade, but Nerchio got back so quick, and he just managed to close off that army. viOLet, I think, hoping for a little bit more damage. He's now going to desperately try and defend this choke point. Notice how he's going to try and stop the Roaches pushing up on top of him. He's got to hold that Roach. No, there's an opening. These Roaches can slide through on the left-hand side. There's too much surface area for Nerchio, and he's just going to use those superior numbers. He's bashing his way through for now. Fantastic corrosive vial spread out. All the queens are pulled to the front for viOLet, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Nerchio here starting to push through.
It's very, very close. At the same time, the drones push it in. Nerchio had eaten a lot of those corrosive biles, and landing another great one there, getting the concave now. viOLet, he's gonna hold, and Nerchio is gonna back off in the middle of the map. All the drones even chasing still. He does lose 11 of them, but he holds on.
Yeah, I mean, that natural hatchery still hasn't finished rebuilding here for Nerchio, so even though he's up a couple of workers, that's not that big right now, and viOLet looking hungry to go for the counterattack. Both players are reset on their tech back to Roaches since that Spire went down. It's just Roach versus Roach for a while here, and viOLet is looking relentless, gonna come straight back across the map with the counter swing, and Nerchio maybe actually throwing this away with the counter. Looks like viOLet's gonna push on top, man.
Unbelievable. I think he just ate a little bit too many of those corrosive biles. He committed so hard, and he knew that he had a big advantage, but he ate so much damage, and viOLet pushing through, gonna kill 20 plus drones here as Nerchio struggles to hold on, but I don't think it's gonna be enough.
Decisive, confident play out of viOLet. I mean, I called it a YOLO move, and it kind of was, but it worked out. It was viOLet recognizing the heat of the moment, diving in there, and focusing down the tech, the lair. It worked out, man. Nerchio overcommitted to that counter, and now Nerchio is just getting shredded. Even if he holds on against these Roaches, his drone lines are torn apart. And I mean, you can see there, he's trying to hang on, he's trying to do his best, but viOLet is just in an astoundingly good position right now.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the lair going down, you just look at the lack of production from losing that extra hatchery, and now you look at how many drones have gone down. viOLet's basically doubling the number of drones that Nerchio has here. Look at that. The minerals, it's nearly triple the amount that he's getting here, so he's even got a fort base up and running.
Yeah,
or at least created here.
This is a very tough position here for Nerchio. viOLet, even adding in a few more drones, he's saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm ahead. Let's get a bit more ahead. And that's a very un-viOLet thing to do. Normally, viOLet, loves to just kind of attack from all angles. We saw him do it against Haas, where he just was like, hey, I'm ahead. I'm just going to drop your bases constantly and come from all sides. But viOLet's slowing it down here a little bit and showing a good amount of range.
Yeah, for sure, man. This series is getting really interesting. Nerchio is really on the back foot in game number 3. He's looking to potentially go down 1-2 here against a player that he was definitely favored going into the series against. And he's definitely got to be feeling the pressure here. viOLet is playing out of his mind. I love the way he's playing the ZvZ.
Very, very few people picked viOLet to even win 2 maps, but he's about to go, potentially 2-1 up here. He's up about 70 supply, and this would be a very, very good situation for him. He's splitting Roaches off on the south side, coming up the middle at the same time. Ooh, gonna take a little bit of a ballsy engagement here. Gonna have to step out of those corrosive piles, but the Roach counter on the south, hitting at the same time, pulls Nerchio out of position. It allows him to come up that ramp, and viOLet's gonna come in from 2 sides with the pincer, and this is gonna force Nerchio out of these games, using his unit advantage superior effect, and viOLet takes the 2-1 lead.
There you go, GG. viOLet really feeling it right now. After taking that second game, you can feel it, the motivation, the momentum that he's got here in this series. Nerchio looking around a bit, he's like, I don't even know. He looks a little bit confused,
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those moments where you're like, that game was going really well. And I was like, yeah, let's clear out some map control with these Roaches, get a bit aggressive. And the last thing you expect is your opponent to just dive across the map into the center. And, it was a good reaction from Nerchio. He did pull back. Maybe just rebuilding the hatchery, rebuilding the Spire was the correct play there, but I mean, he just felt really pressured to counterattack. I thought it was the right decision, but it just didn't work out. The defense from viOLet was very good.
It really came down to the map, If you're going to shove your army up that tiny ramp and eat, it was something like 10 plus corrosive biles. I would love to get a look at that replay and see exactly how many he ate, because he just ate way too much damage. viOLet pulling the drones too at the perfect time, not even at the beginning. He waited until he backed off, regrouped with all of his queens, and then pulled the drones to tank a bit more. Keep in mind also, I was taking a look at the upgrades, but viOLet's +2 was not done for the majority of that fight, and he still won. He still won the fight because of the corrosive biles and because of the positioning.
So that really was the perfect timing for Nerchio. Then, very interesting that he did go for the Spire play. It was such a safe way of getting there, but having it shut down, the game just got out of his control. And the next map is going to be King Sejong. It is quite a different map to Frozen Temple.
For sure.
A little bit easier to push on, and most importantly, there's just so many counterattack paths. Like, if this comes to Roach versus Roach, there's those back rocks on the natural. It really favors the aggressive player.
For sure. So, guys, we are going to jump into King Sejong Station after a quick 90-second commercial break. We're going to be right back.
right, we're here in beautiful Shanghai as the Koi swim, and we get right down to the nitty-gritty here of ZvZ. Of course, we see viOLet at the moment 2-1 in the lead here in the Zerg versus Zerg. And Funker, I've got to ask you, what are the defining things that are putting viOLet in the lead at the moment?
Like we expected, his ability to be aggressive, his ability to be decisive with builds, with all-ins. That's what happened in Game 2, where he actually was able to kill Nerchio with just some Ro8 and Lings at a really weird timing that caught Nerchio off guard. And Game 3 is actually an uncharacteristic mistake from Nerchio, trying to spread his army on the two sides of Frozen Temple, and that's what I love about viOLet. He saw that with his overlords, and he was like, time to go, I guess, because that's one thing that is really important to know about Frozen Temple is that you can't fight on that ramp if the other guy is standing on top of it. But this time, his army was so out of position that viOLet seized the opportunity to kill the lair, and that put Nerchio in a really, really bad spot.
Yeah, I perfectly agree. I think Funka said it all here.
No, I loved it as well. He didn't second guess himself once, and he dove really deep into enemy territory immediately on top of that Spire. And from that point on, obviously, it's 4 base, against 3, almost 2, because he's obviously not mining from the second base and stuff. So that was really cool. Awesome move by viOLet. And I mean, we said it before, like, what is viOLet's best approach to the series? Well, didn't really have much because I think that Nerchio is almost unbeatable, but he's finding that thin line of making very sharp attacks, not super early game cheese. This is not a 12 pool, this is not a 1 base lane. It's like that fine line between a macro game and a timing attack, and so far he's catching Nerchio off guard, but I still think that Nerchio is such a veteran when it comes to competitions like this that I don't think he's shaking his boots here, but obviously it's a little uncomfortable.
It's something that's interesting in Zerg versus Zerg is that obviously with the migration a little bit more to Roaches and Ravagers compared to the previous what we saw of Mutas trying to control Overlords and stuff like that, the fact that viOLet was able to identify when Nerchio is going for these split decisions and having those Overlords in the right positions where, the Ravagers aren't able to shut them down, it really hurts the situation that Nerchio is in. It can fall flat on its face like it did, right?
It does, and that's the funny thing about that game is that I feel viOLet was in a really, really rough spot because he got his third cancel twice, and then after that, and the casters actually were right on the money with this, they actually talked about the Spire play, which is the absolute thing you want to do on Frozen Temple because it's such a bad map to fight Roaches and Ravagers head-on. You want to go into Muta play, and he was about to reach that state, Spire was almost finished, and he didn't have the opportunity to do that, so viOLet, perfect.
All right, thank you very much, guys. We're about to get back into game number 4 here in this best of 5, Nerchio versus viOLet. 1 game between viOLet and the round of 4. Take it away, Pig and Valdez.
Welcome back, guys, here at the casting desk. About to jump into game number 4 here of viOLet versus Nerchio. viOLet currently up 2-1, as the nice guys on the desk did rehash for you guys. So jumping into King Sejong Station, up in the top left in the red. Down a game currently, it is the Polish Zerg, Nerchio. Looking a bit somber there, Pig.
Yeah, he's got to keep it together here. Does not like going down when he's the favored player. But this guy over here is digging deep, and it's not only his muscles he's been working on, his ZvZ is looking hot. It is violent.
Looking good so far in the series. Let's see if he can keep it together. Sometimes when you're on the cusp of, just 1 game away, right? Usually this comes when you're 2-0, I would feel. The pressure's there. You're like, okay, 1 more game. I can close it out here. And then you lose. And then you lose another one. And then it's 2-2. And that's the worst feeling because you're like, I was so close. And he's back in the series now.
You could see it as well after he won that game. He was like putting his fingertips together and there's this like kind of shaking a little bit. There's like nervous energy running through him. viOLet, he can taste it, man. He's so close to a semi-final. Yeah. It's been a while, and if he can get through against Nerchio, man, that says some good things. So he's definitely very excited for this one. He's got to keep it together, and we're actually seeing the same matchup of build orders as in the previous game, where you just have this like slightly faster, safer spawning pool for Nerchio. Likes to be able to get the queens out and get them on the ramp against a 13-12, like the really fast Ling Bane attacks. But viOLet's gonna have a slightly faster Zergling speed, but all in all, no one's going for the crazy 1 base cheese. Both players really respecting each other's kind of defensive abilities. And even in
Yeah.
that last game where Violet did it, it was just a pressure into expand. It wasn't all in by any means.
Exactly. You're right on the money, and he should be feeling confident. Up a game against Nerchio, he doesn't necessarily have to cheese here. I feel like he feels enough confidence in himself to go for the longer macro games and still be able to outplay Nerchio by this point. So it's going to be very cool to see how this one pans out. If Nerchio can come back in the series, I feel like it's really anyone's series at that point, because Violet has been playing some fantastic ZvZ. He was definitely the underdog coming into this one, but he's playing a good series, so anything could really happen here.
We really do see this kind of mental matchup of the favorite and the underdog. Violet does not care about scouting in any of these games. The moment he sees the 4 Zerglings coming, he just kind of backs off. He doesn't try to run past to get a scout. He says, I don't even care about scouting you, to be honest. Like, I just want to be efficient at home and defend and potentially stop you from scouting. Violet here has gone for a super fast third base this game. Nerchio is just slightly later, and neither player actually going for a Baneling Nest or Roach Warren yet. Nerchio is going to start dishing out a bit of damage, but I think Violet should be able to keep this alive pretty easily.
Yeah, it looks like it, just distract these lings, poke at them. An extra 2 lings do come down. They are a bit weaker, but more and more are streaming down. You see him making actually 16 more lings. So even though Nerchio is going to win this fight, Violet will easily be able to shut this down, even gets the speed first. And is he going to continue committing to the lings? That's the question. Nerchio has not seen this.
Both players building an almost identical number of Zerglings for now, and both going into Roach Warren. Nerchio's Roach Warren's a lot faster. It's going to be a Zergling battle here. Violet actually has the numbers. Nerchio taking a ballsy engage, and I think a bad trade there. Violet's got the numbers right now. He's pushing across. Nerchio's going to have to use the defensive position and going to have to use the queens, but he's got to use keep the third base alive at the same time, so a nice aggressive push here from Violet.
At least it does have a lot of health here. Violet also not really fighting with all of those lings, and now he's trapped.
My God. Okay.
He actually duped him. There you go.
Does manage to slide out of there. That would have been a disaster if he lost all those. And behind this, we do see a 10-worker lead for Violet right now. He's up at 35 versus 25. The more time he buys here before Nerchio gets over to his side of the map, the better.
And look at him. He's just running around in circles. He's
Ring
like,
around the
keep
rosy,
chasing
man.
me. All right, yeah, my third base is earlier, and I have 10 more drones. What are you going to do? And look at this. Nerchio is like, oh, I guess I got to attack him. Now he has no defense here at the third base. I get the roaches are coming over here.
Oh, good Ravager morphs. Really clever. That's so annoying as Violet to see that, have that damage denied. But, this third base took a lot of damage earlier, and these roaches are just slightly too late for Violet. The hatchery is going to go down. A very good pickup there for Nerchio, really salvaging his position in this game, because he's been mining a lot less resources than Violet so far.
It was looking good for Violet there, but Nerchio actually made the right call. He's like, no, you're going to stay over on my side of the map. I did so much damage to your hatchery. If your roaches are not there to defend, I can easily take that out. And you can see Violet just going to kind of meekly remake that third base behind Nerchio.
I still think this is a completely fine position for Violet, though, because they've both built a lot of roaches, and Violet wants to push across the map, right? So as long as he kind of forces Nerchio to not drone up this third, his own third should catch up. The thing Violet has to worry about is he can't overcommit here. If he dives in and kind of gets surrounded, that's where things turn really south for him.
Yeah, and just taking a look at the units here, we do see very even numbers. Just 10 more lings here for Violet. He needs to get the right engage, but
corrosive bile landing on top of those roaches. And just not enough Zerglings left over here for Violet. Like I said, Violet cannot go too deep with this push, but I think he has committed a little bit too far in. And now Nerchio is getting on top of him. The Zerglings wrapping around. The Ravagers, of course, having that movement speed edge as well. And Violet taking some pretty big losses there. A pretty nasty trade. Nerchio, with the comfort of that, he can just drone up now.
You know, that was kind of a sticky situation, because on this map, you could see where Nerchio had that concave set up. He kind of gives the ramp to Violet and, like, baits him down. And then once he gets down, he just immediately engages, because he has the concave. If Violet ever tries to commit towards the third base, he's pretty screwed. He's going to be caught. Yeah. So Violet just, like, he already takes the ramp, so he's like, oh, I got a decent position. Maybe I can take a fight, because, we've got the numbers on our observer PCs, right? Violet doesn't. So he's like, oh, maybe I can. And he just commits that 1 or 2 seconds too much, and that's all it takes in StarCraft.
Exactly. You lose your third base like that, you feel a lot of pressure to get something done, and you can dive a bit too deep. We did see Violet eventually push the Overlord back outside of his natural, but Nerchio still with the map hacks on the back of the third base of Violet. And, I mean, Violet doesn't see it. He doesn't realize that right now Nerchio sees everything. He's had tabs on the economy of Violet all game, and as a result, he's balancing his economy to army ratio very well.
There's a nice little run by in here by Violet. Just going to catch 2 drones. Not going to overcommit this time, and we'll be able to get out alive here. And you see now viOLet is finally, he's going to finish up that lair and begin droning up. And in fact, Nerchio is going for a bunch of units, so maybe Nerchio wants to get a bit aggressive here.
Nerchio's roach speed is starting up, as is his +1. His +1 is way behind viOLet's, but viOLet's caught up in that drone count, 53 versus 47. We saw in a lot of the games, even though Nerchio's ahead in the drone count earlier on, in this mid-game phase, viOLet is much more comfortable taking risks, whereas Nerchio, he's building a lot of roaches, but he's not necessarily attacking or pressuring with them, and I feel like that's a bit of a mistake.
Yeah.
I really think he should be at least pushing out to like 3/4 of the way across the map and then going home. He's giving viOLet a little bit too much freedom and map control.
He's being so safe. Even with these lings, it's like, no, he's got lings on the map. I don't want to take any damage. I need to deal with these lings before I move out at all. And he can't chase the speed lings. It's too hard. So he's just giving viOLet so much space to drone up, as you were saying. We saw a response out of Nerchio. Perhaps he saw the big drone up at the back of the third base, as you were saying, with that that scouting overlord, and maybe he's like, oh, maybe I can, get a bit aggressive here and, go for the attack, but he just hasn't done it yet.
Nice scout coming in from Nerchio with that Overseer once again. Did see pretty much everything that was going on. And he's just continuing to mass roaches here on a very low drone count of just 48 drones. But viOLet on the other side of things has stopped at 53, just a small economic advantage, and is himself massing up roaches and actually adding up a surprising number of Zerglings. Now keep in mind, when this +1 range upgrade kicks in for Nerchio, those Zerglings, they're just not good in a front-on fight, man. They just don't pay for themselves. So they're kind of like a very counter-attack focused force.
Yeah, for sure. And this is an interesting move out here by viOLet. He's going to go on the aggressive side here, and generally in ZvZ, if you're the defender, you're going to have an advantage. You're going to have the queens there, the earlier reinforcements, the concave, all this stuff. But even before he gets across the map,
he can't
Nerchio
push in
has
there.
more stuff.
He can't push in there, man. He's wrapping around from the south side. viOLet, you got to get out of here. Run. Get on that ramp. Get the hell out of here. There's just too much Nerchio. I mean, viOLet knows now he's getting cornered. He's got to do something, but this is just a disastrous position for him. He really needed to scout ahead with that Overseer because Nerchio has just been massing roaches off a smaller drone count, and viOLet got way ahead of himself there, and now with these roaches being cornered, look at it, on the right side of the map, the roaches are coming up to pincer, they're preparing it. Nerchio is going to close in around this, and he is going to munch this blue Zerg army to death. These roaches are going to get destroyed.
He's going to chomp down on this army like breakfast cereal. Here we go, the concave coming in. And that's just going to be all of those roaches demolished. Not much they can do, nowhere to run. And Nerchio going to take a massive lead in this game with that fight.
Another one to go into the many replays we have in the highlight reel of beautiful Nerchio engagements. Wrapping around that army and getting the edge there. I mean, viOLet's way down on supply now. He's way down on army. He's trying to take down these rocks to buy time. He's doing anything he can desperately, but he's just so far behind in units. Nerchio's got a fantastic position. That being said, viOLet is still up in economy. If he can buy that time, then maybe he can make something happen.
That's exactly what he's trying to do. Going in there, trying to snipe a Ravager or two, but he really does need to get back home and defend here somehow, some way. Maybe another drone pull, maybe some fantastic corrosive battle. He doesn't even have Ravagers this time.
Yeah, this is looking really nasty. Nerchio's getting in here with that unit advantage. His roaches are chowing down on everything. And that is a delicious ZvZ breakfast here for Nerchio's army. Just outnumbering everything, he's destroying it. And I think he's going to manage to equalize the setup 2-2.
GG, there you go. Nerchio bringing it to game 5. Making it really interesting here. He does not want to go down without a fight.
Really kind of interesting style here from Nerchio. Super heavy on those roaches. I think he's just playing so safe here against viOLet. And viOLet getting a little bit ahead of himself. I think he was in a very playable situation, but the moment you walk into the jaws of that roach army, I mean, there was just no escape. And bad luck there for viOLet because he played out the early game quite well.
Yeah, if Nerchio wins this series, I want to see like 2 clips there where viOLet just oversteps his boundaries. It's like, Nerchio is playing great StarCraft right now. It's defensive. He's not overstepping his bounds. It's very safe, almost to a fault at times, but viOLet is playing right into it. He's like, oh, I need to get some damage. You got my third base. I guess I'm going to attack. Yeah. And it just does not work. And then again, he tries to take a fight where we can see, obviously, with the zoom out, camera, where like he's got the massive advantage in unit numbers, and viOLet still engages, and he's biting that bait over and over.
That's exactly. I couldn't have said it better myself, Brandon. It's so easy for us to see it here, but Zerg vs. Zerg is so information-based, and we saw throughout that series, Nerchio, yes, he's playing defensive, but he's scouting those overlords and overseers, seeing everything that's going on and like adjusting, whereas viOLet's been a little bit more blind on the map. And, you know, as a result, he is walking into these traps, and he might not be realizing that he is overstepping his bounds. It's very hard to judge. He might just think, oh, maybe I was just further behind than I thought. In these ZvZ series, you know, you're not allowed to hop into the replay after the match. You've got very little information to go off, so even for an experienced pro gamer, it's very difficult.
Guys, we are going to jump into another quick 90-second commercial break before we go into that 5th game. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. Welcome back to China Joy and the Intel Extreme Masters here in Shanghai. We are in the midst of a fantastic series here. 2-2, all tied up between viOLet and Nerchio.
Yeah, what a couple of action-packed games we've seen so far. Getting out of control a little bit, and I think both players got to be kind of shaking in their boots a little bit at what could come out in this next one. I mean, that being said, I mean, Nerchio's sitting back so much. As an analyst, I got to say, maybe you got to throw out some more aggression. viOLet may be getting a little bit too comfortable, but hey, it's working for him. Nerchio is just so good. He's just playing it out really well, and only one game away from cementing that spot in the top 4.
Yeah, he really is. The 5th and final map is going to be New Gettysburg, another 2-player map for these 2 players to go head-to-head. We'll see if either of these guys wants to get aggressive, or are we just going to have another gentleman's agreement as we go into this 5th game? Let's jump into it right now. In the bottom right, in the red, the Zerg player from Poland, tying it up. It is Nerchio.
Still looking a little bit unimpressed there. I don't think he foresaw himself necessarily being in this position, but this guy down here in the bottom left-hand side has been doing a phenomenal job so far today. It is EnVyUs's viOLet.
Getting in there in that blue booth, feeling the G Fuel energy pulsing through his veins.
Yeah. That would be like the blue ice booth up against the Phaseberry booth, of course.
I got to try the Phaseberry. I haven't had that one yet. Only the blue ice.
I just love the G Fuel action we're getting here. It's going really well, man.
It's been fun.
Nerchio, I don't want to take any risks. This is like a 16 pool, 17 hatch. Wow. Nerchio's stepping up the safety a notch. You know, I was saying maybe throw out something a bit aggressive to put your opponent on the back foot, but I mean, Nerchio's clearly confident with this game plan. He's done it every game so far. He's like, I'm going to play really safe. I'm going to defend, not going to take any chances, and if I scout well and respond, even though it's such a fast-paced, action-packed matchup, I should win. So he's sticking true with his guns.
Yeah, and I like that. Just confidence from the first game, you know, just playing it as safe as possible. Wanted to get into those later games, very confident in his ability, even though he himself has said at times that it is his weakest matchup. Still feeling pretty good about it so far.
And this is going to be New Gettysburg, of course, the map with the giant bridge, the narrow bridge across the very large sea.
The giant thin bridge, yes.
The giant bridge of death, yeah. And this is something where actually, you know, you can kind of attack across here a bit more in ZvZ than, say, against a Terran player or a Protoss who are going to have force fields or ranged units raining down death upon you. But it's still a little bit frightening because it's a decent rush distance, and if your opponent has something like roaches or spines at the edge of that bridge, you're not coming off there easily.
So what are you thinking about builds for this map? I mean, we've seen players over in Korea, in my experience, try to two-base it up. It's pretty easy to defend on two bases. You got that ramp there at the bottom of your natural. You can try to spine up, perhaps. Obviously, the air distance is long, but you can get main to main quite easily. Yeah. And if you do get that advantage in mutas early on, it's of course very nice for you, but you got to be careful early on. What do you think these two players are going to do?
I really do love Mutalisks on this map. I think playing a generic Roach style, maybe not as strong here. I also think upgraded Zerglings are fantastic because even going up to 3 base opens up a few attack avenues, and there's just so much space as you get to 4 bases and so on. Zerglings are just going to have a beautiful time, and they also happen to do very well against the mutas as well.
Look at this. Nerchio gets the scout on the 3rd base, immediately throws down a Roach Warren. But at the same time, on the other side, viOLet is making a big swell of Lings. So perhaps just for defense as he gets that 3rd base up here. He did also scout the Roach Warren with his own Overlord.
Yeah, really nice hunting of this Overlord. And if we pan down to the bridge, Nerchio has actually built Zerglings to create a wall on the bridge to buy time. So, yeah, it looks like viOLet's going to come across with his Flood, but Nerchio is going to get his Queens in position in time. Very good defense there. And this is going to allow him to take a nice, tidy drone lead and just defend super efficiently with these Queens. viOLet's actually going to commit here.
He made so many Lings, and the Queen is going to go down. The Lings right there to try to help defend, but there's still way, way too many Lings here with speed trying to push forward. Both Queens are going to go down eventually.
Actually, really good surface area there. He finds the damage. Roaches are about to pop, but these Lings are already on top of the drones. Good micro by Nerchio so far.
The surround of the 2 Roaches that pop out of the larva. And there you go. He snipes 2 of them, getting fantastic trades here.
Not like this. Nerchio's got to be thinking right now, man, that's way more damage than he was expecting. He's down to just 1 Queen right now. Yeah, he's got the Roaches. He's stabilized. But this was a single wave of Zerglings. That's all that's come out of viOLet here, man.
And look at this. He's not going to commit to the 3rd. He did do a nice bit of damage to it. Could try to follow it up there, but he did so much damage already. He's not going to overcommit. He's got his 3rd base ahead. He sees the amount of Roaches and even the drones that he sniped there at the natural. He's ahead in drones, ahead in production. He must be feeling pretty good about himself right now.
Yeah, very good position here. And looks like going back to what he did in that first Galactic Process game, of course, that second game, I believe it was, viOLet here, just massing Roaches, Ravagers, and Zerglings. Yes, he's showed a 3rd hatchery, but he has no intention of using it. And once again, Nerchio has been pinned back. He has no vision. He has no idea that this is coming right now, and this is going to be a huge attack. Nerchio's got to build a lot of units if he wants to hang on. He is building Roaches. He is playing quite safe, and he gets his first vision of it. Is he going to be ready in time?
How is he going to defend this? How can he defend the 3rd base? Is he going to try to hold it at the bridge? I'm not sure that he has enough units. I think he has to wait for everything to spawn here. He's going to make a Spine Crawler, just 1.
Oh, nice Zergling surround at the 3rd base on one of the Roaches that is hatching, and this is the reason viOLet's going to be able to push across that bridge, because if you don't defend the bridge, I mean, if you're defending the bridge, you can't defend the 3rd base. The 3rd base goes down in an instant,
and he just backs off. He's getting so much damage, and he's going to take a nice little trade here, trying to land those corrosive bios, even though he is on the ramp, and there you go, the Lings coming in for the full surround.
This is beautiful play out of viOLet, taking the fantastic trade while he has the unit advantage. Can't stay too long, though. When the reinforcements come out, he's going to have to back off. But for now, this has been so good for viOLet. Takes a great trade, dropping those corrosive vials to cover the retreat. Nerchio actually eats them. And viOLet up 5. Work is up at 3rd base, adding the gases, adding the Evo chamber behind this. viOLet is in a fantastic position. You could see Nerchio there drawing in some breath, thinking, oh God, what the hell do I do from here? Yeah. He's only putting the 3rd hatchery back down now.
This is such an awkward spot for Nerchio. You know, he puts down that 30, immediately starts a lair, but even though the map is a 2-player map, you have that bridge. It's a pretty decent rush distance at that. You're not going to get over to your opponent's base, and it's not like you even took out a huge chunk of his army and that you have a huge counterattack available. So he kind of just has to accept it and play from behind. And that's really his only choice here.
Absolutely. He's just got to try to absorb the damage and over time, you know, let that peter out. But viOLet's not letting up. He's actually continuing to push out, but it's kind of like semi-fake aggression. It's just pressure. He's forcing more and more units out of Nerchio while adding drones behind it. He's forcing himself upon Nerchio. He's not giving him space, and this is going to work out fantastically for viOLet. As long as he doesn't overcommit here, he's going to be good.
Violet's just multitasking in this game even. The fact that he has that small group of Zerglings consistently, over and over, at that third base, just going in, sniping drones, sniping the third base, coming back, sniping a weak Ro8, and then just backing off, trading 2 lings for it. It's fantastic trading so far.
But Violet
He's all
getting
over the place.
super aggro right now, going a little bit deep there to kill a spine crawler. Not too sure about that trade, but he's keeping the pressure up, and the drone count, 61 drones to 47. Violet mining those resources way quicker. He's got a 4th base down. He's going to have so much more Ro8 production. He's got the faster upgrades. He even goes into Sniper Ravager. That one definitely not worthwhile.
So confident now. He's just like, no, I can do this, you know? And he's actually taking bad trades here. He's still very, very far ahead, but he has to be careful about what he's doing in this game. 4th base coming up. He did take a bunch of extra gas, has not gone and taken that 6th gas. So it looks like he's just going to stay with the Ro8 tech. He knows he's far enough ahead. And Nerchio, he's going to go for the infestation pit.
That's a really smart move. I mean, it's actually not the thing he needs right now, but what he's saying is I think because he's so far ahead, I think Violet's going to go for Spire, and there's no way I catch up in the meter count. I got to drag this game out. How can I do that? Infestors? Maybe steadily head towards Hive and Ultras. Like, he knows he's got to play the long game, but Violet is just massing Roaches right now. He's got a sick economy. He's massing up that army, and when his Roach speed hits, I think he's just going to go across that map, and I don't know, Nerchio is going to need the sickest defense ever to hold on.
It's going to have to be insane. Infestation pit finishes, but he's not even making infestors. He doesn't have enough money. He's going to rely on spines, lings, roaches, and ravagers. That's all he's going to have for the defense here. Obviously, the queen's going to join in too, but Violet just has this massive army pushing across the map.
Nerchio, one of the absolute tournament favorites here, is seeing victory potentially slip from his grasp. He's trying to put down spines in panic. He's trying to defend, but he realizes how dire the situation is. Violet, the massive underdog, has put himself in a far superior position, and now Roach speed's kicked in. It's time. He's looking for that fight. He's going to start posturing around here. He's dropping a Spire behind it as well, just taking his time for now, but he's got 40 more army supply. He's got a massive Roach lead.
That would have been such a great time to attack. +1 was not done for Nerchio. He had a huge army advantage. Of course, the spines were there, but he could have taken trades. And now he's going to go in right as the +1 finishes. These guys on equal upgrades. Violet still with a massive army, though, pushing forward.
Fantastic concave here from Nerchio, but the spine crawlers are not in the fight. This is a fantastic time for Violet to trade. He's got the superior numbers. The north side of the concave does fall for Nerchio, but the south side is strong. The Ravager Corrosive Bile still forcing these spreads, and Violet eats a few big Corrosive Biles there, but he's still got that number advantage. He's just way up in these Roaches. He's way ahead, and Nerchio is barely hanging on.
I love how he draws Nerchio consistently into the Corrosive Biles, backs off right as it's about to land, and just automatically the Roaches run in. Is it going to be enough, though, to take out Nerchio here? Looks like it in the supplies, but the reinforcements coming through, trying to hold on.
A lot of drones going down here, and I mean, Violet is held. Nerchio somehow holds on, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. The Spire's finished up behind this. +2 attack is about to finish for Violet. Nerchio hasn't even started. He's just started it now. And, I mean, what's he going to do if a bunch of mutas fly out? This is such a hard position for Nerchio. He's got to worry about mutas. He's got to worry about Roaches. How the hell do you defend both at once?
He's hanging on by a thread, man. He's just barely does he stay alive. He's still got, you know, he's only 5 drones behind, which is not bad. If he can somehow grab some spores on the main and see these mutas coming, but he doesn't even have, he's pulled back all of his overlords. He's like, he's only got this one over here.
Yeah.
He's not watching in between the mains. He's not going to know when these mutas come out if they go directly from main to main. So he's just barely holding on, and Violet's trying to find a way to crack the armor here.
Yeah, I mean, Violet's still up that base. And he's got 10 more Roaches here. The Ravagers for Nerchio, though, zoning for now, buying a bit of time. And Violet knows there's no pressure for him to finish the game right at this instant. Though that muta count is building, 6 out, 6 more on the way, +1 flyer attacks on the way. Violet showing us throughout this series that he's able to shift gears. Once he takes a lead, he's able to slow things down and play very intelligently, very calmly. He's just going to wait for a big number of mutas, and then he's going to surprise, hit all at once, and start to crush the economy of Nerchio. But Nerchio, actually reading the lack of aggression, is already starting infestor production. A fantastic decision.
And look at this fight, too. He walks in with the concave. He's got so many Ravagers in the back for that extra DPS. He forces Violet back. But here we go. The mutas are going to join up now with the roaches, and it looks like viOLet wants to go on the offensive.
I mean, even though he didn't see it, Nerchio is building queens, he's building infestors, but they're not out yet. There's no fungal growth ready because there's no pathogen glands upgrade, and the spore crawlers haven't finished. This is a pretty damn scary muta count. 1 or 2 queens is not enough to defend this corrosive bile, forcing them to spread, but actually kills his own queen with the bile. Oh, this is not how Nerchio wanted things to go.
Oh boy, viOLet just taking it slow. Nerchio not even canceling that base. Just gonna walk over, kill that, and try to take the fight. Still no fungals available coming in.
Focus fire on the infestors. 1 infestor goes down. Fantastic corrosive bile. Nerchio winning the ground fight. But even there, I mean, the mutas now turn around. They start to focus on the ravages and roaches, and just killing most of viOLet's roaches is not going to be enough. He's just looking so desperate right now. The muta count continuing to grow. More and more Zerglings flooding across the map as well. And viOLet looks like he has done the impossible and has shoved Nerchio out of this game, taking down the champion from Valencia, one of the absolute favorites to win the tournament, and now he's here on his last legs.
Unbelievable, a huge upset, and now all he's got to do is finish the game here. There's one puny spore crawler against this many mutas with +1. Unless he eats a huge chunk of corrosive biles, there's no way viOLet goes down in this game.
Oh, fantastic focus fire there from the mutas, taking down all the anti-air.
There we go. viOLet moves on to the semifinals to go up against Uthermal, upsetting Nerchio. Unbelievable.
What a surprise result there. I can hardly believe it myself, but viOLet just played that so well. And Nerchio's got to be devastated with that one.
Oh yeah, you can see it, man. Just, that's such a hard loss to take. It almost felt like Nerchio was the one clawing himself back in that series all along.
Yeah.
He won the first game, but from there it was all viOLet. viOLet 2 in a row, and Nerchio claws his way back in a really close one, and then viOLet with a fantastic game in Game 5.
Oh, I mean, Nerchio's got to be struggling with that one. Like, that Frozen Temple game, you know, everything was going right, and then it comes up to this point where viOLet shows that decisiveness, which has defined his entire career, dives in there, and Nerchio just making very small mistakes. It was all viOLet needed to capitalize.
Yeah. Very, very close series all the way down to the last bit of it. Guys, we're going to take another close, or rather short commercial break here before we go into that interview with viOLet and back to the desk.
Welcome back to the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai. We are sitting on the couch with Nathanius and viOLet after an incredibly intense ZvZ against likely the best Zerg in the foreign scene. viOLet, you came over here, you're sweating, you're panting, you just seem really excited. I want to know, you know, it's generic, but how do you feel after that?
As I said before, this tournament most hardest opponent is Nerchio because he just won championship. He's the #1. I mean, even Caspa player and Korean players said he's the European king. So I just, you know, I show how Korean is. Just kidding.
How did you prepare for this match?
You know, this is ZvZ. If you practice harder and more, you will get more confused because ZvZ has a lot of different situation, a lot of different strategy. So I just not prepared to practice a lot. So I just trying to keep thinking myself what I'm gonna do. And that's how I think this is much better ZvZ practice.
Yeah, your next opponent is going to be a Terran player going up against you, Thermal, who's having a bit of a hot streak at this tournament. I want to ask you, we see a lot of the Terrans that have been playing in these tournaments a bit more standard, but he's a bit cheesy. He's busting out some crazy stuff. Are you a little bit more concerned going up against him, or do you feel confident in your ZvT right now?
On round 16, he cheese versus Snoot, and round 8, he cheese versus Laser. So I'm sure he's gonna do something. I don't know what, but he's Terran and he has a lot of strategy. He's a smart player, so I have to worry about it. I have to some VOD for today or yesterday. But I'm very confident GBT, so I feel great.
When you see something,
good, man.
When you see something like that, where a player is cheesed and cheesed again, how do you keep a cool head going into that?
First of all, is a scout, and second thing is I can cheese as well. So it's really against cheesy player, really mind game. So I have to control my mental and pick some good strategy. So we'll see.
All right. Last thing I want to ask you is WCS points. After last night, you made it to the top 8. You just boosted yourself a little further now. Does that give you a little more confidence going into the next round?
Yeah, actually, I worried a lot about the Nerchio, like round 8. But now I got the point. I got more confidence. So semi-final is I have a really good mood. Sorry about it. So I'm very confident, and I will get more points for BlizzCon. That's my goal.
All right, awesome. Well, Violet, very well done. We're going to get you a towel so you can wipe the sweat off. Excellent series. And we're now going to hear the breakdown with the boys on the desk. Galaris.
An important win there for Violet as he banks himself more points, propelling himself on into the round of 4 and potentially later on down the line, if he gets to the final, trying to crown himself a 2-time Intel Extreme Masters champion from all that time ago. But defeating Nerchio, Funker, that was quite an impressive feat from Violet.
Yes, he did his best result so far in 2016, I think. Just taking out Nerchio at that stage of the tournament and actually reaching the round of 4 is such an amazing feat, and I'm really happy for Violet because I think as a player he actually deserves to be at that level, but it wasn't just going on this way ever since the beginning of 2016.
Yeah, let's take a look at the final points of these games as we start with game number 1, Funker.
Obviously, you can save your hatchery at like 40 HP, and then he gets it a little bit afterwards, but it cost him so much, Violet, that is. So losing a lot of units. First game was, it was going the way we all anticipated.
Absolutely, exactly what we expected. Violet trying to, find some weaknings or weak points in Nerchio's ZvZ, and it's like, actually there isn't any. But then it turned out there were a few. Nerchio saw this attack just a little too late. If he would have identified it 20 seconds earlier, it could have been all different. And then, of course, we had this crazy game on Frozen Temple with eventually Violet's massive road shove into the natural. I loved it, man.
It was a great game, and actually that's the kind of game that I think really puts you in a bad mood when you're Nerchio, because you made the right call of going for an early pool, a safe build against Violet being aggressive, and then you do that stupid mistake in a way, but especially Violet just seizing the opportunity to finish the game with a really huge front.
This timing here failed completely, and then Nerchio with the wraparound coming in from 2 sides. I mean, even in ZvZ, he finds a way, in a matchup where it shouldn't really come into play as much. He always finds a way to get these good engagements, and then really brought it back here to 2-2. But then Violet, guys, in the last game.
Oh, that 5th game was really confusing.
Big.
Like that was the beginning of Violet being good in this game, just sniping the 3rd hatch. That fight was a little bit terrible for Nerchio because he lost a lot of important units. And then Violet taking his sweet time to finish it with the Muta play, but great composure by Violet in general in that best of 5.
I think that entire 5th game on New Gettysburg, that was excellent. It started off with him making those links early on. That can be risky because you're putting yourself in an economic deficit. You got to make up for it. But he took out both queens, forced out enough roaches, and behind that, he was holding down that drone button. So even though that attack started with him being down 4, 5, 6 workers, it ended with Violet being up 6, 7 workers. And then, of course, later on, coming back, picking up that hatchery. I think that was the beginning of the end. But that final game, that was really beautiful. That's arguably the best game I've seen of Violet all year long. I mean that.
Nerchio investing into even the infestation pit to try and catch up after that as well, and then unfortunately not even be able to get them out. before the big fight was actually coming along. It's very difficult in that situation in Zerg versus Zerg, right, to actually get yourself back into the game.
Yeah, great analysis, guys. You know, like there is no particular Zergs on this desk, but you really covered this perfectly. He tried to go for Infestation Pit and wasn't able to get anything out on time, was too far behind. The Mutas finished it up. Violent fans are going to be happy, but you know who's going to be even more happy? Uthermal right now, because you don't have to play Nerchio in TvZ.
Like you said, Todd, and Uthermal was sitting on the edge of his seat. He's like, he was just ready to like unleash the joy, because he's like, I am dodging Nerchio in the semifinals. But also like what you said in the beginning, if viOLet did win an Intel Extreme Masters, this is a super long time ago. I mean, we have to go back all the way to 2012, I believe it was. I mean, the entire top 4 of that tournament, to put things in perspective, Red, Dark Force made it to the quarterfinals. I mean, that was a long time ago. Who was it, Terran again, that he beat in the final? It was Supernova. I mean, that's ancient history almost. But viOLet, he stuck around like a champion. Now he's here again. Obviously, he's not there yet, but what is very important are those WCS points that he mentioned, because viOLet was, on the cutoff, and now he just secured himself a couple of very important points, and also, I think, a lot of points that other players who were in the competition for that 7th or 8th slot did not think that viOLet was going to get, but he said, hey guys, I still got it.
All right, well, let's take a look at the brackets and kind of update you as to where we are at the moment here in the tournament with our 2 semi-finals now decided. It will be Showtime versus Neeb and Uthermal going up against Violent. We have a guaranteed Protoss in the final, and we have either Terran or Zerg down to the bottom. These 4 players as a whole, let's talk about them just briefly here before we actually go on a little further down the line. For Showtime or Neeb, it could potentially be one of their first Intel Extreme Masters titles, guys.
It would be, yeah, for sure. And I'd say for Neeb, like if he actually reaches the final and do well, it would be his first tournament, period.
Right.
Like he actually reached the finals one time, but he didn't get the opportunity to win. So it would be really, really great for him. And even the message that he would send, the opposition of the European Protoss, the European champion Protoss, and the American one would be like, it's already really, really exciting, I think.
Yeah, I personally feel like whoever wins the PvP is going to be a big favorite to win the whole tournament here between Neeb and Showtime.
I agree, but I still want to give a shout out to my man David Kim. We've got 2 Protoss, we've got a Zerg, we've got a Terran.
Yeah. Doing well.
Always good in the world of StarCraft 2. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Doing good. And then, of course, over to the other semi-final, you've got Uthermal going up against viOLet. We've already mentioned that viOLet, of course, could potentially crown himself a 2-time Intel Extreme Masters champion. But Uthermal coming all the way through after being a replacement and beating down them Zergs, Funker. I'm sure you're a happy man.
Fairy tale. And I don't want that to finish. I want that to go through, and maybe until the finals where he would meet a different race. But if he can make it in TvZ against his opponent there, against viOLet, that would be such a great run for a guy that wasn't supposed to be there.
Well, Roddy joked in the start of this tournament that Dutch players were taking over Shanghai, and somehow, so far, it's still proving to be true.
We are still in the running to go back-to-back in Shanghai. We may not have been part of the Euro Cup, but we're taking over Asia, baby. Take that, Portugal.
And who knows, maybe you'll be in the final as well. We'll see.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm always in the final.
Except when Testusis are there.
That's right.
All right, well, thank you very much, boys. We are concluding things here. We're going to go to a little bit of an extended break whilst these players set up for the semi-finals, because it gets really important here to find out who is going to be moving on to the grand final of the Intel Extreme Masters Shanghai for day number 3. So don't go anywhere. Awesome StarCraft coming up.